I'm Matt Martelli. This is the Off-Road Racer Podcast, and I'm here with my good friend David Clay. David, thanks for making the trip down, man.
Yeah, buddy. It. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I have a gift for you. Here you go, and I want you to try it. It's some Utah moonshine.
Okay. All right.
Try a little bit right now. I promise you.
All right. I'll give it a shot. I'm not afraid.
Okay.
Well, that tastes like water.
It's water, dude. I come from Utah. We don't have moonshine in Utah. It's like the most boring milquetoast place in the entire country. Man, I don't know why I'm here right now. I don't know how, like, this kid from Utah that's been a wannabe my entire life, like I'm sitting across from you right now. This is crazy.
No, it's awesome, but that was a good one. I was ready to go like, I wonder what this is made out of, right? I'm just going for it.
You're just waiting for that to finally kick in.
Let me give you a gift. I was
perfect.
Talking about this earlier. These are our Dirt Coast socks. And of course, I gave you the American flag version.
Yeah, buddy.
Proudly represent, but these are antimicrobial made of bamboo, so you can wear them for a week off-roading and they won't smell or get crusted up.
Gladly accept these. Thank you.
Be warned, the first one's on me. Everybody I know that I give those socks to ends up throwing away all their socks and buying them all from us.
This is like socks drugs. You just gave me socks drugs.
Exactly.
Great. I'm in California. My wife warned me, be careful down there.
Exactly. But no, let's talk about, who you are. It's very interesting because we met when you started doing tracking for Best in Desert, right? Mm-hmm. And like that's how most people know you is you're the dude at the finish line, you're the dude at the start line, hooking everything up for RacingTrax. But I know like you didn't just show up and start doing that. You have some history in off-road. How'd you get into off-road racing? Dude,
it is really weird because like I don't come from this culture at all. My dad grew up in Las Vegas. He had a really rough childhood. So he would get his mom to like drop him off at the races and he would just like be there. He spent all day out there. So he loved it. He ended up like getting older. He got a job at Armstrong. So he was running pit support and stuff for Armstrong and then moved to St. George. Started building like mini trucks. Like at one point he got our little family truck, an Isuzu Pup, the little diesel non-turbo, and built that into a race truck.
Nice.
Wasn't competitive.
I wouldn't think so.
But he just loved the sport and we grew up around it. But he wanted to make sure that we had stability, which he never had. And so he went and got a job at the post office. And as you can imagine, like that's not really going to pay the off-road racing bills. And so we were always around it, but kind of like not a part of it. Well, come 1999, Ford comes out with $10,000 for first place if you're running a stock vehicle, $5,000 for second, and I think it was like $2,000 or $3,000 for third. And he's like, I could do that. So he goes and buys this old Bronco off of a farm for like $2,000, throws some 33-inch tall tires on it, and we go and in 1999 enter the Tonopah 300. So we have a bunch of other Broncos that are showing up for this money. We have some brand new Ford Expeditions, like literally the tag from the dealership is still on the window of these things, and they're all done up nice. And then there's Rod Hall, who decided to bring his Hummer, his full-size SUV Hummer that he just got done racing in Dakar. He brings that, and we're like, oh, crap. So my dad's like, no, we're just going to drive, and we're just going to like finish. And like, it's a stock vehicle. We're just going to finish. So everybody else takes off like a bat out of hell, and we just finish first because everybody else breaks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that's such the truism of off-road racing is, and it's Rod Hall who always coined the phrase, you must first finish to finish first, right?
Oh, totally.
So that's the thing is the attrition is always one of the biggest components, of off-road racing or one of the biggest hurdles.
Yeah, totally. So that was 1999. I'm like 17 years old and I'm just like in heaven. So
that was your dad and your other family members?
I would navigate my brother would navigate also.
Okay.
So, so we got first place the very first race because everybody broke. The next race, Rod Hall finished, so he won. Everybody else broke. We didn't. We got second. Third race, we get second again to Rod Hall. Then my dad gets a job transfer to Denver, Colorado. So halfway through my senior year in high school, we like go to Denver. We leave the truck like to the little team that we had developed to go race through the last race of the season. They end up breaking, so we didn't finish that one. And I was like just devastated. And I'd moved and like we were just like doing this cool new like sport. And I was like super excited and totally into it. And I was just, I'm getting pulled away from my senior year in high school also, right? So I'm like, oh, this really sucks.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was my dad's idea, if it was my idea, but we're like, hey, go talk to the shop teacher of this new high school in Aurora, Colorado, who knows nothing about desert racing. See if you guys can build a race car. Okay, that sounds cool. Yeah, sure. So I go and I talk to this guy. I'm like, yeah, off-road desert racing. Like, we're going to get a Bronco 2 because they're only like $1,000. And like, let's build this as a class and like, let's go race it. So he's all, yeah, that sounds cool. So like me and like 6 other shop buddies, because we were in the advanced class, there's only 6 of us. We build this Bronco 2 and we go and race it at a Silver State 300 race. Like we literally tow it from Colorado. We borrow a truck from like one of the kids' uncles. My dad didn't even go to the race. He had to work. So it was like a bunch of us high school kids. We go to Pahrump. And it was funny because when we were racing the full size Bronco, okay, there's a guy that was racing. We were in the full size stock class. Okay,
right.
There's a guy racing in the mini size truck class. His name's Mike Falkowski. Raced a red Ford Explorer. So at one point we're in a pit, okay, and you see this red Ford Explorer coming into the pit, and the motor's just screaming, and there's a trophy truck behind him, like right on his bumper, and this guy's the motor's screaming and screaming. He's going, and my dad goes, "See that guy? He's a piece of shit. Like he needs to move over. This guy caught him. What a dirtbag. What a jerk. Like move over. You're sure. All these things.
He got caught.
Right. So he comes pulling into the pit. And the trophy truck's on a tow strap. Dude's pulling him in. And we're like, oh, yeah, what a guy. Yeah. Oh, man, what a guy.
Yeah, all of a sudden your opinion changed.
Right. So I like afterwards, I told him that funny story. We're like, oh, what's your name? Mike Falkowski. Okay, cool. Yeah, like we totally thought you were a dirtbag, but you're actually a really good guy, whatever. Yeah. Okay. So then fast forward, move to Colorado, build this little Bronco 2 to go and race in the same class as Mike. Okay. Yeah. So talking to him at a driver's meeting, and he's like, hey, so are you guys going to come back for the Nevada 2000, right? The big, like, I think it went from like Las Vegas to Mesquite to Ely to Elko to Reno to Tonopah, and Tonopah back to
a big clover leaf.
It was a big one, right? So he's like, are you guys going to do that? And I'm like looking at my like little high school shop class, and I'm like, no, this is kind of like a one and done for us. I said, I would love to do that race, but just, it's not in the cards, So he's like, well, if you want to join my team, you're welcome to join my team. Really? Oh yeah, you can join my team. Cool. Yeah, I'll be there. Cool, thanks. And this is January 2000 when we raced, right? The Nevada 2000 wasn't until like July. I didn't get Mike's number. I didn't get anything. So come July, I jump on a Greyhound bus and I like go to Las Vegas. So get there, go to contingency, can't find the guy. So I just like hang out, wait around. Finally, they show up. So I walk up and they're like, oh, we were talking about you. We were wondering if you're going to show up. I'm like, yeah, I'm here. He's like, do you know how to co-drive? I'm like, yeah, I can co-drive. Cool. Yeah, I want you to co-drive. I ended up co-driving almost every mile of that race.
Awesome.
We ended up winning that thing by less than 60 seconds.
Crazy.
Like after 8 days of racing or 7 days of racing, whatever I ended up doing. So I was like, oh, this is the greatest thing. He goes, hey, you can come back anytime you want. So over the next 10 years, I basically was taking buses and planes and stuff and going from Colorado. And I wasn't in Colorado the whole time. I actually ended up moving back to Utah.
Right.
But I raced with him for 10 years and I learned a lot about how to keep a vehicle together.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really, I guess it wasn't in my cards at that point to have a race car team or do anything like that. So I was like, hey, Navigator, this is the greatest thing ever. I can be a part of it. I can be important. I can learn, I can be in the culture. And that I just loved it. I absolutely loved it.
But it's still pretty cool that you were able to just stay involved and that, he was willing to give you that shot.
Oh yeah, no, totally. And the guy, a stock vehicle in 10 years, he finished every single race.
Yeah.
That guy should be in the off-road Hall of Fame.
It's funny you bring that up because that's one of the things I love about our culture is there's a lot of guys like that they've done every race mile. They've paid for it themselves. They've prepped the cars. They've built the cars. And, a lot of them don't get a lot of recognition, So I love hearing those stories and I'd love to actually have on the podcast and talk to them about it because I think that's an important part of our culture to make people understand that anybody can do this. You just have to, put your mind to it and get to work, but you can come race in whatever class you choose to and have an insanely great experience with your friends and family and make new friends.
Yeah. And how cool is that too, that he's like, hey, some kid from Colorado, you want to come race on my race team? And I found that out to be the case with a lot of race teams. People are very like open. It's funny, like being a contingency where you see people walking around and they're like, "Oh, do you think I could talk to the driver?"
Right.
And they're like, "Of course, go talk to go sit in his car." Like he's like totally happy to let you like crawl underneath and look at stuff and like, you know, don't touch anything, but you know what I mean? Like it's such a welcoming community, and yeah, it's just a cool thing to be a part of. So Ford money ran out in like 2009. So after doing that for 10 years, it was like, okay, well, you know, start hooking up with some other people. So I ended up like kind of navigating on, do you know John Holmes?
I know who he is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So 7SX guy. Yep. So ran with him a little bit, ran with a guy named James Berman in his 7SX and in a Class 8. And just being a part of it any way that I could be. Like I had a young family. So again, I wasn't going to have a race car, and it's really hard. Also, like it's really hard not being in the culture and not having your transmission guy like right down the road or a shock guy right down the road. Like there was nobody in Utah. Now there is. Like we have some awesome people in St. George. We can talk about that later. Like lots of people are moving to St. George, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Especially when you're, you know, interested in the sport, and now you have like buddies that are like prepping trophy trucks in their garage or in their shop.
No, the knowledge, you know, that's like I jokingly call it the Bermuda Triangle between, you know, Phoenix, San Diego, and Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
And so like just having that knowledge nearby is clutch. And so yeah, when it spreads to, you know, St. George or another location, like it's good. It proliferates our culture.
Yeah, there was like nobody back in the day when my dad was doing it. It's like he would like build a roll cage and he'd like measure it all up and run down to the muffler shop, and they charge him $5 a bend. He'd like put it in there like, give him the $5 bill, run back over $5. You know, like it was painstakingly difficult, but you know he paid his dues and all that good stuff. So yeah, like my brother was a navigator. I was a navigator. We just kept kind of like going on other people's teams. In fact, it's funny. The guy that my brother navigates for has been on this podcast.
Nice.
Jason McNeil.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
McNeil's badass, dude.
Yeah. No, Eric Clay. Yeah. His navigator. And yeah, Jason, they do wonderful work together.
Yeah, no, he like McNeil's like a lot of these guys who really doesn't talk very much, but he goes out there and he just destroys people. It's so like he's such a good racer. You know, I was stoked to have him on the podcast, and he's doing really well right now.
Yeah, he's getting his son into it. Like his son did really good, just barely at Laughlin. I think they ended up blowing up the front of the truck. I saw him. I said, Eric's going to be really mad at you.
Right.
Get it ready for Baja.
Well, and of course, you know, his fiberglass company, you know, now it's more like composite, right?
Yeah.
But it's really cool. A big part of the industry.
Yeah. I always thought it'd be really cool to make like a red fiberglass body, but like as thin as possible, and then have backlighting. So when you're running down in Mexico, down in Baja, like your whole truck is just glowing.
That'd be badass, but the Mexicans would probably come closer to you.
That's true. That is true.
They'd probably definitely try and touch the truck at that point.
Yeah, it would be like bugs to a light. It's like, oh, look at that thing.
Yeah.
But how cool would that be? Like if you could do like the underlit hood and everything.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it's doable.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, so going back to the original story, I kept getting on teams and I would navigate, and you know sometimes I'd get to drive like a small section or something like that, but I was just being in the culture and being a part of it, just a total wannabe from Utah.
Sure.
Right. Well, we kept going down to Mexico and we kept losing the trucks. Like we were like, okay, we're going to be here, here, and here. So we'd go from this pit to this pit, but guess what? Our truck was faster. We got, you know, held up, and then they would pass the pit and we would get there and they were down here, and then they'd run out of gas somewhere over here because they were just kept looking for us. And then we're waiting for them over here. And then we'd go back and like try to find, like, it was just, and this just kept happening. You know, at one point, I was going to get in and they're like, hey, here's the keys to the truck, drive all the way down to Coco's.
Yeah.
And then you're going to wait for the truck, and the navigator's going to jump out. You're going to give him the keys. You're going to jump in. You're going to, you know, finish doing the rest of the race. Okay, cool. Like, here's a sat phone. If anything changes, we'll call you, but get down there. Okay, cool. You know, that's 6-hour drive, 8-hour drive, whatever. Going, you know, sat phone, everything's okay, cool, or whatever. Get there, and then the little pit captain, you know, looking for a big yellow truck, comes and knocks on the window. Hey, are you David Clay? Yeah. Yeah, you guys broke down like 40 miles into the race. Go home.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how to use those stupid sat phones.
Yeah. That was, I mean, people don't understand how difficult it used to be. Now, we have so much technology. It's so much easier. And that was one thing that was really remarkable that I learned from the McMillans was like they had it wired, right? They long before GPS tracking and all that type of stuff, like they were very good about, time splits, and they knew like, okay, if Mark's not here by this point, there's something wrong. We're going to give it, 30 minutes and then we're going to start looking for them. Yeah. But yeah, to your point, you just drove 8 hours, sat there. How long were you sitting there for?
Not very long. Like I pulled in and they were like looking for me because they had done radio relay or whatever to get them the message that like, hey, once this guy pulls in and he's, I can't remember if I was in a yellow truck or a red truck. Once he pulls in, like send him home.
Yeah.
Like we don't know how to call him.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it was like, this is really frustrating. There's got to be a way of just doing like satellite texting where it's just simple, right? So I go home and I literally Google satellite texting, and this company out of Canada pops up, ROM Communications, and they've been putting these little trackers on sailboats, and you plug it in to 12-volt power, and the thing emits a Wi-Fi signal. You can plug your phone to it, right? And then now you can do satellite texting, which is huge, revolutionary. And this is like back in 2013, 2014, right?
Yep.
So I was like, oh yeah, we need this. So I go and I get to the computer and I write just like this big thing about like the passion of off-road racing and how great it is in the sport and this and that and like the, difficulties of it. And I hit send it to him. 2 minutes later, my phone rings and it's the owner of the company. And he's like, hey, I just got this. This is really cool. What is off-road racing? Like we know about dog sledding. We know about ringolette. We know about, ice hockey. What is this? And I'm like, so, just tell them. We have a big, long conversation. They end up flying me up to Canada. I have a meeting with them and, their people. They have like, they're in this building and they're like 3 floors is just them. They have like a server room. They have like all their engineers in one room and then, just like a big conference room. They do big business all around the world. They've been in satellite technology from like the second that Iridium had satellites in the sky.
Right.
So what we figure out is like, hey, we need to build something where we can put it on the race vehicle and then also put one of these little trackers on each of the chase vehicles. And then we'll set up the race vehicle to ping off the nearest race mile and send a message like every 8 minutes to all the race vehicles with it. It's just a text type thing, right? With race mile and speed and a timestamp. Yeah. Like you don't need to look at a map. You know that, I'm in a pit at race mile 120. They're at race mile 70. Now they're at race mile 85. Now they're, they're getting closer. You know where they are, and you know their speed. You know that they're still moving. So I was like, oh, this is cool. So we ended up trying it or putting it on our truck, a little 7SX truck with James Berman, Sidewinder Racing. Yep. We put it on there, 2014 Peninsula Run, Baja 1000, and it literally, it saved our race. So I'm navigating with James. Same situation. Like we're driving, get to a pit where we're supposed to be getting gas. They're not there. James is like, well, let's just keep on going down the course. We'll find them down there. I said, James, just pull over for a second. So I go and I connect my phone, do the little thing. And all of a sudden I get like 8 messages come in. Okay. So it's from the pit crew and they're like, hey, Jim rolled the pre-runner. Everybody's fine, but it's a yard sell. We're not making the pit. Beg, borrow, steal fuel. Like we'll catch you the next one. Right. I'm like, whew. Let's get some fuel, So we pull into a team, we pull into like BFG or something. We get gas, we continue on. So we ended up winning the Baja 1000.
So hold on a second. So right after that point, you get gas and you're taking off. What's going through your head?
I'm like, this is so cool.
Like you just made some history right there. Yeah. And again, same thing. It's like, who are you? You're not like this isn't like,
it's not even my technology. Everyone's like, oh, you're so smart. I'm like, I'm not smart.
This is like, everybody thinks like, oh, AT&T or some big company goes, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to put all this money into it. But that's not off-road racing. Off-road racing is built by the people.
Yeah. 100%.
Every advance, it comes from the people.
Yeah, some cool idea. That's like, Justin Lambert with Cognito. Like, I'm just going to start building something that'll make trucks a little better, UTVs a little better.
Definitely.
Like all these cool companies that have just popped up because there's a need. Yeah. Like I didn't even realize how much of a need. I mean, this was literally for our team only. Right. This is as far as I had thought up to that point. So it worked so well. We ended up winning the race, doing all of that. I wish I had your marketing skills, Matt. Like I could have blown this up. I just don't. I don't know what I'm doing. But the long story short, I started a business called Baja Tracking. So I would go to all the score races and I would just talk to racers. Hey, Baja tracking, like put this on your truck, put this on your, chase vehicles, do all that. And I would just go peddle this stuff like one at a time, selling these things, teaching people how to use them, like running around, just doing the whole thing. But there were Baja 1000s where I had 150 units out there.
Yeah.
Like most of the cars, I'm like, that guy has my tractor. That guy has my tractor. That guy has my tractor.
And I remember that because it was such new tech.
Yeah.
Like nobody understood it, right? Like they're like, how does it work? Oh, satellites. Everybody thinks satellites are this magical thing. Like, you know what I mean? It was just like, what is it? It's this black box and here the tracking, the way that you can communicate and stuff. And even then that was prior to it being a visual tracking source, right?
Right. It was just putting a dot on a map.
Right.
And more importantly, I mean, we were putting the dot on the map still every like couple of minutes then as well.
Okay.
But that was for friends and family at home.
Yeah.
The important thing was the message that the chase crew was getting with the race mile and speed.
Right.
That was everything.
And that wasn't even, just so people understand, technically that wasn't SMS. That was texting going through satellite.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. You would connect to the Wi-Fi and then you'd go to our satellite email inbox. It's a URL called 10.10.10.10. And people would screw that up all the time. It was like, that was the most brutal part. It's just trying to teach people like, look, 3 steps, plug it in, connect to the Wi-Fi, 10.10.10.10.
Right.
People would screw that up all the time. So that was hard. But when they did get it up, it would send them messages and they would know where it was at and it was awesome. So I pedaled it like all of 2015, going to all the races and, talking to people and doing all that, all of 2016, talking to everybody, doing it. And I like in the same time, I'm like talking to Roger Norman, I'm like, Roger, look at all this stuff that that we're doing. Cause at the time they were just using spot trackers.
Yes.
Which was like 22, low Earth satellites, Global Star.
Yeah, with a lot of latency, right?
A lot. I mean, their own reports said that they had an 87% fail rate on their first time trying to transmit any message. It was bad.
Yeah.
And they knew it was bad. Rogers owned, because he owned the Baja Challenge cars.
Yes.
They would run my trackers.
Right.
Because they would have clients and they would need to like know what's going on. So I would tell Roger about like all this stuff that like we could do. And he'd be like, oh, that's interesting. Write it all up and, send it to me. So I like wrote it all up. I sent it to him. So he would get it. And then he would give it to a kid named Brad, who was running Volocor, the spot tracker system that I'm trying to put out of business and take over. And he goes, Brad, does this check out? Because you're my technology guy. You're my SAT guy. And Brad's all, ooh. No. This is bad. He can't do any of this stuff. He can't geofence speed zones. He can't geofence VCPs. Like, no, none of this. So Roger's like, yeah, we're not interested. And I was like, oh man.
Which is crazy because right then we're going into from the era of everything being analog. I mean, people who haven't been around for a while, like I don't think they realize like, the way we used to do this is there was a start time and there was a finish time and checkpoints were literally done with a stub can. You'd pull up. Oh, right. And somebody would stick a little piece of paper into your stub can. And if you had them all at the end of the race, then you hit all the checkpoints. Then it got a little bit more sophisticated and they would do visual checkpoints. Right. But you'd have to wait, right? Because there was no way to transmit the data, especially in Baja. It was like, okay, we look at all the pieces of paper and we're like, okay, everything checks out. You won the race.
Yeah. And I mean, even at the end, it was like, get all of the spot tracker devices and download every single one of them. It would take weeks to actually finally do results. And there were times that guys were spraying champagne and they did not win. Yeah. And the dudes that are like super sad in second place, like they don't even get to celebrate. They get a call a couple weeks later being like, congratulations, you won.
It's a crazy thing to think about because, the challenge of timing and scoring a desert off-road race is extremely difficult. Yeah. Everybody looks at it and goes, oh, just do it like NASCAR. Well, NASCAR's on a 1 mile oval. You can visually do it, right? Yeah, right. And oftentimes, you see the finishes and they're coming down to a camera is deciding the finish, not a tracker. Right. Right. So we have a whole different set of challenges, as well as like you were talking about, like speeding violations, pit violations, whatever it is, like we'll use the Mint, for example. Like, we've got to make calls on 100-mile course, right?
Right.
So it's a lot of data to intake to make a decision. And you know, with your current tech, I don't want to jump ahead because I want you to keep going on the evolution of technology. We're able to do that like immediately.
Right. Yeah. It just pops it out.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was trying to tell Roger, because he had just gone through that whole thing where they had to take away a first place from somebody. He goes, it would be so cool if it could just tell us like in live time.
Right.
So we built it all out. Like, we tested it on a bunch of units. It was funny. It was the time that, I forget all their names. Anyway, it was like, I tested it on 4 race vehicles and all 4 of them won their class.
Nice.
Yeah. It was really cool. Like, Pete Sohren was one of them. And then number 15, yeah, damn, I cannot remember that guy's name. Anyway. But I was like, Roger, here's all the data. Like, we've done it. We've solved the problem. And he's like, cool, Brad, check this out.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to keep like selling it to individual teams. Well, Casey Folks got wind of it, of what we were doing and everything. And it was actually really funny. My dad helped Casey Folks write his rule book when he wanted to go from dirt bike racing to four-wheel vehicles. Yeah. My dad was like driving down from St. George, Utah, helping him out doing that. So like, cool. It was kind of cool that there was a connection there. And I knew Casey a little bit from doing all the racing with Mike Falkowski.
Right.
And so Casey calls me and he's like, hey, like, what are you doing with this? And could you do this for Best in the Desert?
Right.
Could you also change your name, because Baja is my competitors, so I don't want it to be called Baja Tracking. Like, change the name and can you do this for everybody? So we changed it to RacingTrax. I called up Canada. I'm like, hey, we have a good opportunity, but like, I need 300 of these units, right? $700 each. And that's not me.
Right.
Like, so they're like, oh yeah, we're all in, let's do it. So what was really cool too, is we were actually already in development. So if you remember in 2015, Mango Racing, there's, Monty, I forget his name. I think it was Monty is the guy that
I think you're right.
Died. Yeah. So guy got, stuck in the silt. Navigator jumps out, runs around, starts trying to do a tire change and gets hit.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a navigator. My brother's a navigator. So we don't even have this on every single vehicle at this time. Right. We're just doing it to onesie twosies. But I tell Canada, I'm like, man, this horrible thing just barely happened. Cause I started this in 2014. That happened in 2015.
Right.
I'm like, we've got to like start building out something that maybe I can take to a race series and say, hey, here's something that will let people know when you're stopped. Yeah. So it gives them some warning. So you're not just like plowing through silt and all of a sudden there's a stopped vehicle and there's a guy out there. Yeah. And so we were already working on that. I remember I flew up to Canada and we were like having this meeting and one of the guys is like, hey, I love drones. Like, the follow me drone technology that was like just got started. Yeah. That we can transmit that through like a little Zigbee antenna where it's actually transmitting a GPS coordinates, not just a on off. Like with the Stella, it's kind of like somebody's there, like there's a signal or there's not a signal. Right. This is actually transmitting constantly. Not only constantly, but a constant location. So now our unit, what we designed is that it will point an arrow in the direction of a stopped vehicle and it'll have a countdown. So it'll tell you that they're 900 feet away, 800 feet, 700 feet, etc. So you can really like, hey, start slowing down. And all of a sudden, if the arrow shoots to the left, it's like, oh, they've probably pulled off to the left. Let's carry our speed forward. Sure. So that was really cool. So we didn't even know we were going to have anything from Best in the Desert. We were still going to keep trying to go after score to tell you the truth. So Casey calls me. He's like, hey, can you do this for everyone? I'm like, sure. That's cool. Okay. Accidental second full-time job. Right. And so we just in 2016, we came out with just a little tracker. Everyone had to wire it into 12 volt. And then by 2017, we released the RacingTrax is what we called it, where it had a push to pass and a stop alert. And if your car ever like goes like this, it's, turns on a hazard automatically and sends us a message and, cool stuff like that. That it was just like,
which is huge for safety because, we have a huge disparity, in our sport of experience. Yeah. And we don't ever want to put up giant barriers for people to come race, but we want them to be safe. And so if, they do get in an accident and their car overturns or whatever, and we get an alert, like for us, that's a huge advantage because we're like, okay, we know there's a problem. Right. How bad is the problem? Did they just roll the car and they're fine? Are they overturned? And so we immediately go into this assessment because same thing, is everybody has a limited amount of resources. And, like in the Mint, there's 200 people on the course at the same time. So if we allocate a group of resources to go help one guy, it's potentially pulling away resources from other things that are going on.
Yeah.
So and what we learned through your technology is a lot of these incidences were totally fine. They were minor incidences, and it wasn't, you didn't even need attendance. It just was like, okay, he's stopped, he's off the course, whatever, and then they're going to get back going again, or they're out of the race.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I love the stories when somebody's like, yeah, we broke down and I hit the mechanical button, and 10 minutes later, here comes a recovery vehicle with the tow strap. Absolutely. And it's just so cool because, you've been out there.
Yep.
Sometimes you break down, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And you're like, I hope people know we're here, because I don't, like, I'm calling on the radio, nobody's responding. So I hope people know we're here. So it's always really cool when people are like, hey, it worked.
When you're first starting off-road racing and that happens, it's scary, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit, I'm on my own. But after you get, adept to it, now I'm totally comfortable with it. It's like, I start going backwards down the list. Like, okay, everybody's okay? Is this fixable? Right? Do we have forward momentum? Can we limp to the nearest pit? Like, you just start going down this assessment, and it's just a problem solving, right? And the one thing that it teaches you is to be calm, right? And not to be overreactive to the situation, especially during crashes. I've crashed before and taken some significant hits, and it's scary. But then you're like, okay, I'm good, right? My co-pilot's good. All right, let's get out, look at the vehicle.
And all of a sudden you're like, I hope nobody's gonna smash into us while we're stopped.
That too. And so having the beacon, I think that's a huge one.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I think that's a huge one, especially in the situation you're talking about in Baja with the silt. Like, again, I don't think people understand, like, you're going into a silt bed that is already disturbed. So there's already a ton of dust up in the air, and you're going into 3 or 4 feet of silt, and you have no idea what's in front of you. And once you go in, it's complete blackout. And your mission at that point is to stay in the gas and to pop out the other end without getting stuck.
Yeah, it's funny when you look at in-car camera. Have you ever noticed, like, in-car cameras, sometimes, like, it's really fast. When you see somebody going fast, you're like, how could anybody drive like that?
Yeah.
But then when you're in the actual vehicle, it feels very comfortable. You're just driving what you can see, and you're looking at the horizon, but, like, the navigator's saying straight, everything's good. So it's totally normal. And you're like, it's not really, like, the in-car actually looks a lot more extreme, right? But then you hit, like, a silt bed in the in-car, and it's like, and you're like, no, that's exactly what we're seeing.
Yeah.
It's just a whole bunch of nothing, and you just...
I mean, again, that's pre-running versus not pre-running and knowing your lines. But then, when you have competitors in front of you and they're stuck, and I've been in situations not racing but chasing, where there's 5-6 different competitors stuck, and they're trying to make sure their lights are on so people can kind of, go around them. But it's wild. It's dangerous as hell,
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So having, being able to look at some sort of, GPS and go, okay, there's 3 guys in there. They're on this side. Let's go over here and take this line.
Yeah.
Like, it's huge.
Yeah, indeed. So it's cool. Technology is cool. It definitely makes it better. It sucks when it doesn't work. I tell people sometimes, like, hey, look, electronics, they really hate heat, dust, and vibration.
Yeah.
And those are the only 3, like, GD things that we're throwing at this thing, like, all the time. So it is hard. Like, as there's more technology, people rely on the technology, but then at the same time, you're trying to teach them, like, hey, you have to have that common sense also to kind of know where you're going and see 100%. What you're doing. And, the cool thing, if I have any type of claim to fame since 2017, nobody's been killed that has had a RacingTrax tractor in their car. Nobody's been hit. Nobody's been paralyzed or injured or anything else like that. And, like, if that's all I've contributed to the world, like, that's huge. Pretty freaking rad.
That's huge, right? Because again, like, that's what's crazy about this is it is dangerous, right? And that's part of what makes it fun, right? It's not, homogenized to the point where you're like, okay, nothing's going to happen. You're on a track. There's rails and all this kind of stuff. There's a million things that could go wrong, right?
Yeah.
And that could potentially, end your life, right? But we want people to be safe, and we want them to be safe, to your point, using the technology, but also using common sense and going like, hey, if there's a guy ahead of you and he stopped, don't accelerate. You know what I mean? Slow down, figure out if he's blocking the course, figure out if he's flipped over, if he needs help, right? You're not going to win the race right there, but you could definitely lose the race right there and hurt somebody. So
yeah, it's amazing how some people wouldn't stop for some people, but in the driver's meeting, you're like, hey, if you stop, we will credit your time back. Like we can do that. That's okay. And then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll stop and help.
It's an interesting thing. Cause I could tell you there's been many times where I passed somebody and I'm like, oh, that didn't look good. And then, a few miles later, I'm like, yeah, we should have stopped, but now we're not going to go backwards on course.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I get to the finish line. I'm like, hey, what happened to that guy? Right. And fortunately, it's never been a situation where it was a bad incident. It's always been like, yeah, they crashed pretty good and they were out of the race or whatever. But, stop and help people, we're all going to get to the finish line at some point. I understand people get in the heat of the moment and they're like, we got to go. Okay. That's a pass. They're counting that as a pass. Right. And it is, but if somebody's flipped upside down, stop and check on them. Karma will pay you back.
So these accidents that you've been in, was that you driving or were you navigating?
A couple of them. I've crashed a couple of times. I don't like navigating, just because I'm a control freak, right? And so when I navigate, I tend to overdo the communication, right? And for most people that rubs them wrong, right? Because they feel like I'm telling them what to do, but it's part of me being a control freak, but also spending time training in rally racing. You give a lot of, you're giving a lot of notes.
Yeah.
Right. And then you flip over to off road and it's like, you listen to some of these in cars and these guys aren't even talking at all.
Yeah.
And I'm the opposite. I'm like, hey, what's coming up? What about after that? After that, come on, let's go. You know what I mean? I want that type of feedback, but I don't like co-writing, right? Cause it's hard for me to, let go. And even pre-running stuff, when I go pre-run with somebody who's really competent, like a BJ Baldwin, or I spent some time with Andy McMillan, and you're looking over and you're like, I know this guy is way better than me and he's amazing and he's super calm, but it's still, you can't tell where their edge is. I know where my edge is. Right.
It's hard when it overdoes your edge.
Right. And I think you hit a point of maturity as an off-road racer where where your edge is at and you're like, I'm good. I'm going to stay right here. And it's going to be about this collective performance rather than hey, I was really fast in this section. You start learning, where to apply speed and where to, hold it back. And I'll use Rob Mack as a perfect example of this, right?
I would love to navigate for that guy because that navigator doesn't do anything. He just sits back while lead nav.
Well, I mean, Rob's got so many hours, right?
Yeah.
And he's a master, but he's also one of these guys who's I said it the other day, and he told me something after a Baja 1000 victory. I was congratulating him, and he goes, thanks, Matt. I really appreciate that. And he goes, do you know how much I won by? And I go, no. He goes, neither does anybody else.
Right.
And what he was trying to explain is that go as fast as you need to win the race. You don't get an extra prize for winning 10 minutes or half an hour, over everybody else. It's just the win is the win, right?
Yeah. Not always easy to do.
Yeah, no, it's hard. It's a mental game. There's a lot to off-road racing, and the biggest part of it, I think, is your ego, and keeping that in check and understanding where your ego matches your capabilities and the ability of the car and, the terrain and everything else. So it's hard to get all that to gel together and have a perfect performance.
Yeah, no, indeed. I've always considered myself like a very good navigator, but like my brother, he's an excellent navigator, and I don't know what separates him and me, but he's just better. It's hard to do that. It's hard to drive right seat because you have so many tasks and so many things to do. I don't know. This is like kind of stepping back. It kind of leads into why RacingTrax actually blew up, believe it or not. So my brother used to navigate for Pete Sohren.
Right.
And how that all came about is he was like, Pete, I've been navigating in these other trucks. I really want to navigate for you. And Pete's like, you can pay for a ride. It's like $1,200.
Right.
So my brother pays like $1,200 and he's riding in Harbor Freight, the 3-wheel or the 3-seat truck, you know, and the navigator's like not really doing much. So from the back, my brother starts calling corners. I think he was in the side. I think Pete was in the middle. He was on one of the side. He starts like calling corners and stuff. And Pete's like, okay, hey, you be quiet for a while. Eric, keep going, you know? So Eric keeps calling and calling and calling. And then by the end of the race, you know, Pete goes and gives him his money back and says, you can race with me anytime. Which is
cool.
Yeah, way cool.
That's a great Pete Sohren story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that guy, I mean, so that's honestly, and I probably should have talked about that before. Pete he helped huge in those 100 cars or whatever that I had because he had all those rental vehicles.
Yeah.
And he insisted that everybody use my tractors because he was using them and he was like, you guys, you got to use them. Hey, you guys, you got to use them. And it just like that guy, like really.
Pete Sohren really cared about off-road racing. I mean, he did a lot of his delivery kind of sucked in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
He was very abrasive, including, you know, like him and I didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. Right. But I appreciated his commitment to growing off-road racing and to be frank, like his hustle, because he knew like, hey, I've got to sell this many seats in order to pay for all this stuff. And he was, you know, piecemealing everything together all the way up until, you know, he passed. Right.
Yeah.
And, I mean, obviously he was doing better and better financially, but still it was like, you know, he didn't have the budget a lot of the teams he was racing against had. But I give him a ton of credit for bringing the amount of people that he brought in. And, you know, we need that more now than ever. Right.
Yeah.
And especially like, it was so funny because I remember seeing what he was doing with this 3-seat truck and I'm like, what a scam. But then that is one way to look at it. But then I realized like, no, man, if you can spend a couple of grand and ride in a truck,
oh yeah,
like it's the deal of a lifetime.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
If you've been watching it on the internet your whole life, and that's like only your exposure, and you're just to actually get into the sport, it's mind blowing.
Yeah,
like how do you actually get in? And so when you find out, like, hey, you can pay $1,200 and actually be in a truck, I think people were happy to do it.
Well, to your point, I think one of the most important things to underline is go volunteer for a team. Right? It doesn't matter what team, what they're racing, but that's your entry point, and eventually work your way into, you know, riding the car and then potentially driving in the car. That is your easiest way in, but you're going to have to volunteer. You're going to have to do pits for a while. You're going to have to earn your way into it, but that's a good thing because you learn the craft.
Yeah. Get familiar with it. One more thing I'll tell you about Pete. There's nobody that rooted for that guy to finish more than me, because anytime that asshole would break down and go home with my tractor and I have to call him like, Pete, I need my tractor back. Can you please mail it back? Okay, fine. I would get it in a box. And it'd be my tractor wrapped in some bubble tape with duct tape. And then some more bubble tape and duct tape. And then some newspaper and duct tape. And I'm like, you asshole, every time. Like,
which is hilarious.
I love it.
We know the same pain because, you know, for a while we were responsible. I don't even remember why, but like, for some reason, we became responsible for getting the trackers back, right? And so people would leave the race, they'd leave the Mint 400, and their trackers are still on their vehicles, so they're going back to whatever state, and the tracker's still on, so you could see where they're at. And they're like, "Yeah, man, we don't know where it's at." I'm like, it's on your trailer. It's in your truck. Like, we know where it's at. Send it back.
Yeah.
And this would go on for months, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, because it's, and you don't, the thing that sucks is like, we're not here to charge people for trackers. Like it literally used to drive us crazy. You know, that's the last thing we want to do. Just hand it in, dude. Take a couple minutes and hand it in.
So want to know what's hilarious? So I was planning on bringing a tracker just to kind of like, if show you whatever, use it as a representation.
Right.
Totally left them all on my kitchen counter. I'm like, oh. So this morning at 5 a.m., I woke up and I was like, man, I really hate that I don't have like, a tracker. I'm all, we just did Silver State. I wonder if anybody like from California brought theirs home. I looked on there, Colt Brinkerhoff.
Right.
Yeah. He still hadn't returned his tracker. He's over in Laguna. So I ran over there this morning and I picked it up from him.
That's funny. That's what this one is.
Yeah. So I'm like, sweet. Now I have like the RacingTrax tracker. I can show you the little buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's right. But so let's continue with your story. So, you're developing this. Casey calls you, start implementing it at Best in the Desert, which was a pretty radical change at that point, because I remember, that point when it happened. And, prior to that, it was like you're standing at the finish line going, I don't know.
They had IRC.
Yeah,
they had
IRC.
IRC.
You're right.
But
they did IRC.
It honestly, like when we took over, and I'm not even kidding, like 50% of the racers, their biggest grief with switching companies is that they had a credit with IRC,
right?
Because it didn't work. And so, he did the best that he could, Steve Myers. It was really funny because the hustle that I would do, just trying to sell it to individual teams, I actually went to the Vegas Trino in 2015. And I was navigating for JT Homes in a 7200 truck. But like before, I was like, going around selling, trackers to teams. And I went to Steve's daughters, who were also racing like in the class 16. And I'm like, hey, do you guys want a tracker?
You didn't know it was them.
I didn't know it was them. And they're like, oh, my dad already kind of does that stuff. And I'm like, cool. Who's your dad? Oh, Steve. So Steve comes over. He's like, you're the dude that's trying to put me out of business. I'm like, what? No, I'm not trying to. And it wasn't my intention at all. This was just an additional thing. My eyes were not on Best in the Desert at all. And then all of a sudden, like Casey calls me and I told Steve I wouldn't put him out of business.
Right.
But he's like, no, like it's just, we're good with that separation. We just need to kind of move into the future, and we like what you're doing and it's working, and can you do it for everybody? So
yeah,
I was like, yeah, cool. What a cool opportunity. So I was in the National Guard at the time. I was in the Air Force for 12 years and I was about to re-up for another 6.
Wow.
But guard weekends fell on race weekends. Like almost every single race weekend was on a guard weekend. So I talked to my commanders and I'm like, hey, can you guys let me like go to these races just 4 times a year? That's all. So I'm going to miss 4 guards. Can I make them up some other time? And they're like, nope. Either plan on being here the whole time or get out. So I was like, ooh, continue in the military or do RacingTrax. So here I am. It was the right choice. I mean, sometimes like I kind of miss it. It was a really cool opportunity. I went all over the world. It was great.
Right.
But this has been really, really cool. And again, like I love it. Like we're tracking 6 series now.
Yeah.
I'm like 22 something races. It's like every other weekend, and it is my accidental second full-time job. I still have like another job. Like luckily, it's my own little business that just kind of runs. And so it gives me free time. But I still love it, man. I love packing up the trailer. I love like programming the units and testing everything and packing it all up. And like we take off on the road. And I'm just like, yeah, going to another race. So
it's a lot of work though. I mean, when you talk about the logistics of it, because, first off, most of the places that you're going to don't have hotel rooms, right? Few of them do. Mint does, right? So, you're driving in from Utah to Vegas, not super far drive. But you've got to get there days before, right? Like I think this year you were there on Wednesday.
Yeah. Which was awesome, by the way. We should do that again next year. I love that. We got like half the cars done.
No, we're going to, because it
was brilliant.
The logistics of the Mint are challenging because there's, 460 teams, and we've got to tech all those teams prior to the race. And now because we're so brilliant, we're like, let's qualify, right?
Yeah.
Many of them we have to tech prior to that. So this year, because, Killian wanted to help streamline the process, we started teching vehicles at the parade and putting tracking units on them as well. And that went really well, and people were very stoked and receptive to that. Now they could just go through the tech and contingency and not have to be held up, waiting to get stuff on their vehicle. But, so then, you get on Wednesday Thursday at the Mint, there's 460 teams that come through. You've got to get trackers on every single one of them, check them, make sure they're good. And then racing starts on Friday. We have one, whatever 18-hour day for us, right? 'Cause it's, 5 o'clock in the morning until I think we stopped at 11. I think it was 11 this year, which I was like, oh, we get to go to bed early.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm like, here's that last report. Here's the last guys off the course.
Yeah. And so again, so people understand, like, we can't, until you're giving us the final data, we can't do our results. Right. So we're like there together at the finish line. You're in a, you're in a RV, we're in an RV, like we're not going anywhere until everything's complete. So that's day one. Then day two is basically a step and repeat, a little bit later start to the day, but it goes a little bit later too. So you gotta love this to want to do that. It's a grind. It's a lot of hours, a lot of driving, a lot of dealing with people, even at the finish line, because there's always these, funny things that happen in the finish line. Like I remember you almost getting run over by a guy while you're taking his tractor off.
I was so mad at that guy.
I know. And I'm like, whoa. Nobody.
He was all mad because he wanted to go out on another lap and he was told that he couldn't. And so like, I'm just like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. And like, I'm like leaning over to do it and he just takes off.
Yeah.
I literally like grabbed the roll cage and lifted my feet so I didn't go under the back tire. And I was all, hey, I was like, I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but I want
you could swear, but it's the thing that we deal with where, people are at the finish line. They're exhausted. They're confused. They're still pumped up.
Yeah.
They want to know where they're at. And especially, those times where we're like, sorry, dude, you timed out, they're not happy at that point. Right. So it's dealing with all that in the dirt, in the dark. It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. So I'm glad you enjoy it because we need people like you. If I had to call people who didn't like this up, it would be even more expensive and they'd probably quit,
Yeah. No, I do. I enjoy it. Like I enjoy the people. The worst feeling, and this has almost made me not want to do this job because like how personal I take it is when a tracker fails.
Yeah.
I hate it. And I do everything I can before a race to test every single unit the best that I can. I even put a video on Instagram. Sometimes I'll put them on a trailer and I'll bounce them down a road just so we're like, it's working fine now, but it's like working fine now.
Right.
And 90% of them will, 95% of them will, but there's always like that couple of percent that when they're doing this really hard, something's making a disconnect. And, it's like everything in the off-road world. There's so many third-party companies. We're not designing every single component in here. We're using all these third-party companies to then create 300 of these, not 10 million of them like an iPhone,
right?
Just 300 that are homemade up in Canada that, we do the best that we can and we learn. And, but this is our third generation and it's really, really working well. We're really happy with it.
Yeah. Talk about that evolution because this is specific for off-road. Like there's a lot of other units and we've used some of them that are meant for boating, right? They're meant for tracking, a lot of them were meant for tracking transport boats, right? They're coming over from China to the US or wherever they're going, right?
Right.
And this one, you guys have developed over now, you said 3 generations to be as bulletproof as it can be.
Right. As bulletproof as it can be and just as simple as it can be because not everybody on a team is going to a driver's meeting. And I go up there and I do the little, spiel and I talk about things and how everything works. But like, you're going to get guys that don't do that. So without you learning anything, like, do you know which is the push to pass button?
Yes.
Right? Like the stop alert button.
Well, I do because I've had to tell 1,000 people, right?
Like
but it's very simple. If you look at it, it's
right.
like, 2 cars side by side. That might be it, right?
And even like Stella, like you have to press like combinations of different things to try to have different things happen. So like we've really just tried to make it as simple as easy. All battery powered, self-contained, goes on with a RAM mount. Just simple. And so with the evolution of Starlink, it was like, okay, we should like look into building an app. We should look into seeing how we could just connect this. There's a really smart kid named Sean Connell that builds apps. If anybody needs like a really good app, this kid was awesome, super fast. So we started, putting out like an app where it could be like tracking a phone, through your Starlink. And then my engineers were working on like, how can we just connect this actual device to Starlink? And we tested both of them out just at this last race, and they both work great. So like we're building out cool new things. And that's what I really, again, love working about, or working with ROM Communications up in Canada. They're passionate about this.
Right.
They know nothing about it. They've never come down to a race. They'll send a guy every once in a while, but they're just like, how can we make it better? How can we? And for them to do that when this is like 1% of their business, but they put a ton of energy and effort into the desert racing world. It was funny because when I talked to Casey Folks back in 2016, and he was like, I'm looking at all these different options. He called InReach. Okay, which is great. They go off of Iridium also, which was like the best thing out there before Starlink was there. And he told them, we have like, 200 vehicles that are racing at a time. Okay, cool. How many times are they racing a year? 4 times a year. Okay, so that's 800 vehicles for 1 day each, right? And Casey's like, yeah. And they're just like, Casey, or, Mr. Folks, we've already sold 800 units that will be turned on 365 days a year. We've probably sold 8,000 units in the time that we've had this conversation. Right. That'll be turned on 365 days a year. You are not worth our time.
Right.
Click. He literally told me this. He's like, yeah, they told me I'm not worth their time. And I'm like, yeah, like it is kind of true. It's like you only do this for a couple days, and then what do you do with, like, do you suspend the unit? Do you turn them off? Do you leave them on? Do you leave them active? There's still Iridium that you have to pay. There's all these different things. And so it was such a blessing to have this company in Canada that has all these relationships with Iridiums, that, has all their, just everything that they do. And they've been passionate about the sport, and it's awesome. They're trying to make it safer all the time. And it's been really cool working with them.
Well, it wouldn't have worked without you involved, right? Like that's the thing, is like you've got to have the person from the culture on the front of it.
Right.
Going, hey, this is the need, right? And whether it's tracking, timing and scoring, safety, and it's different when you've raced. You have a different perspective, right? Because you've been in the car, you've had those experiences, and you're like, like you were talking about one of the Stella units. You're like, hey man, when you're hauling ass and the whole car, you can barely read the GPS because you're getting rattled. Right. You are not going to push button combinations, right? You have to keep it as simple as possible, right? And that's the thing too. And even the failures, like the failures suck, but in our sport, it doesn't matter what you make. I mean, entire trophy trucks fail. Yeah. Right. So this idea that like a couple computer chips is going to be bulletproof, I think
it still makes me sick.
Yeah, it does. But us as consumers, we have such high expectations because, we walk around with a supercomputer in our pocket, and in general, it doesn't fail. Right. It only periodically fails when there's like solar flares or some sort of weird issue, and then it's fixed.
Yeah, but even your phone will be like, hey, time to update. Yeah. Time to update. Oh, there's bugs. Time to update.
100%.
And so we don't. I mean, we do that in between. People are like, hey, can I just buy this? Like, I'm sick of renting these things. I'm like, I know. I got to test them. I got to load it. I got to update stuff. We got to make it better all the time, And then, of course, like if I like rented one of these to Robbie Gordon, he'd be like, like, oh, yeah. That it would be tampered with.
Well, he definitely put tin foil over it to see if that worked, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know.
He's awesome. He's
very creative. I do like that.
He's always going to push the limits, right? Yeah. But talk a little bit about the new tech that you're developing, because we were talking about that on earlier today.
Yeah, so it's really cool. What we tested and what is gonna be the new process is you'll literally have this. You'll get like a QR code. You'll scan it. You'll go to your Starlink. You'll make sure you're connected to your network. You'll put in the password. You'll put in 1181. If you have your Starstream link, you'll put that in there, and you'll hit go, and that's it. So that'll send it to our database. So then now when this unit gets turned on, we're going to over the air that information to the tracker. So now the tracker is going to look for that, whatever you named your Starlink. It's going to automatically plug in your password. It's going to link up to where now just off of this, we'll be going through Starlink and tracking every 1 second. So how cool is that we can actually be clipping along now every second. If you like somebody, you can click on them, see that they have Starstream. You can click on that. It's going to pull up their live stream. So that's really cool. And then what we're working on, which I think is going to be really, really cool, is we want to do a proximity thing where we can now tell you, the promoter who's putting on a live show, who is most likely to make a pass. If we have two moving vehicles and this guy's gaining on this guy quickly, other people are like just right in line, but like this guy over here is like gaining quicker. It's most likely that guy is going to be the soonest to make a pass. We can let you know.
Yeah,
so that's going to be like a leaderboard. So now you can turn your cameras to that guy. You can send the drones over to that. You can now turn on their in-car camera or the reverse camera for the car that's getting passed. And now, how much cooler is that in production that you get to actually see the action?
It's massive. I mean, I always say racing is passing.
Yeah.
And so when we're setting assets, i.e. cameras out on course, we're doing that both with, these are the locations we want to capture. Part of the reason that we're choosing those locations, and we know that that's a zone that has action, that potentially has passing, right?
Yeah.
But trying to predict where 200 vehicles on course are going to pass over a 100-mile race course, it's bonkers.
Yeah,
but
and doing that with 2-minute tracking also, where everybody just like updates so sporadically, that was really never even an option in the past to try to figure out who's gaining on who and everything. So
yeah, that was always the difficult thing about explaining to people on the tracking, the latency. They would get all excited because they would see a dot go ahead of another dot and go ahead of another dot, and they're like, "This is a crazy race." And I'm like, "They actually
so much passing.
They actually have not passed each other." But to explain to everybody, like, there's two satellite systems prior that we were operating off of them. Like one was Iridium, and what was the other one? It was
well, there's like Global Star, there's GLONASS.
Right.
That's like Russian satellites.
Right.
We run off of like 33 of those.
So we're talking about, satellites that had been launched in the 70s and the 80s. They were never intended for this use. Nobody ever thought we were going to be pushing data through space as we are now. They all thought it was going to be all fiber optic, and there's going to be these giant trunk lines to everything. And that's how we're going to push all the data. And that changed. And now fast forward with Elon and Starlink, what's interesting about the path that they chose was to put up, a mesh network, basically a ton of smaller satellites at lower orbit to give better coverage, right?
Yeah, there's like 8,000 of them. I think there's 120 Iridium, which was like top of the line back in the day. That's like military grade Iridium, right? And now there's like 8,000 Starlink.
Yeah. It's bonkers to think about though too, because as we were developing streaming technology, we're using cellular arrays. So it was basically a box that would connect to a camera, and the box had 6 different cellular cards in it. So depending on what network you were on, it would go, okay, we're going to push data over here. We're going to push data over here. That worked pretty well on the Mint course, except for the back section. But when you start getting into more and more remote areas that have no cellular coverage, it doesn't work. And now Starlink comes in, right?
Right.
Now Starlink has, I'm shocked. Like I remember getting my first unit and going out and being like, it's not going to work here. And especially there's the back section of the Mint course, because there's interference there, and then it's, there's no towers back there, and we're in canyons. I'm like, it's not going to work here. Turn it on, fire it up. We have great data throughput back there. I'm like, this is a game changer. And initially, we were just excited about it for ground cameras, right?
Yeah.
As the ability to put it on a vehicle became more and more of a thing, now it's completely changed.
Dude, that
game.
Starlink Mini is so small and it hardly takes any power at all. You can plug it into a cigarette plug lighter or a USB port or USB-C, and the thing fires up, and it's good, and it's constant data. And I know, like, I get people all the time, they're like, are you worried about Starlink, or like putting you out of business type thing?
No.
I'm all, not really. I think it's great because tracking, like putting the little dot on the map, is really like half of the equation in what we do. This is the other half.
Right.
Because your Starlink won't work if it turns sideways.
Correct.
It won't work if it's upside down.
Right.
So how are you see this still will, and it's right there in the window. It can still get, line of sight out of the front. It automatically turns on, letting vehicles behind you know that you're stopped. It has this, push to pass stuff. So, you can make good, clean passes. I don't know why. I always get people like, oh, some people don't use it. Why? Like, I love the Vora series and Snore. We just started tracking those guys.
Yeah.
And because it's like new to them and they've struggled so much with passing in the past, they just all respect it. They love it and they use it the right way. Then you get like the big dogs, running like in your, series and all of that. And they're like, nobody looks at it. But then I still get more people saying like, oh, it was the best race ever. I hit it. They move out of the way and I go.
Yeah.
So I always tell the people that are like, nobody uses it. I'm like, that's you.
Yeah.
You're not using it because like use it and other people will use it. Just use it. Like it's right there.
No, totally. And, the other thing is, as great as Starlink is, to your point, you roll the vehicle and smash the Starlink up and it's out, right?
Yeah.
So having this as redundancy to be able to track and know where those people are, communicate with them, I think is clutch.
Yeah.
For you going through this process, what's been your favorite part of this?
Honestly, it's just going to the races. Like, I don't get sick of it. I still go and I still look at the vehicles and I look up underneath and look at the same welds. And I've always been like that. Like, one of the things that really instilled like the passion is Nick Baldwin at the Laughlin, that road crossing. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
How he jumps and he just goes sideways and he just like, and like bounces around. And then I remember seeing that truck in real life. And like all the torsion bar suspension, like, and I believe he had 2 of those, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, so I did aircraft structural maintenance in the Air Force, and so bucking rivets and doing louvers and doing all that stuff. And it was 100% the passion from just looking at Nick Baldwin's truck and seeing just the craftsmanship of that truck. Like, oh my gosh! So I still have that. Like, I still have that. I still love going and just like looking at the same stuff all the time and just the welds, the craftsmanship, like. I'm a really crappy fabricator. I fabricated a couple of race cars. I accidentally burned my house down building a pre-runner once. I did the whole RS1 challenge thing where I built my own little cards so I could go down and Iron Man the Baja 1000 because I thought that would be cool. But like, I'm a horrible welder. I'm a horrible craftsman. And just seeing the work that people do, it's art. Like, you get those people, that like to like drink with their wine and they like to like look at pictures on the wall and they don't get sick of it. That's me in race trucks.
Sure.
I just love it. And I love them all. Like, I can sit there and stare at a Jeep Speed. I'll appreciate it for what it is.
Right.
The UTVs are like just incredible in these days. And of course, spec trucks and everything else. And just seeing the new designs and like, oh, is that a portal axle? Oh, that's neat how they did that. And like again, like, I'm just such a wannabe. I still feel like I'm a wannabe on the outside looking in, just looking at all this cool stuff that like the community of like off-road desert racers has or is. And then I'm just kind of like there enjoying it.
Right.
I still feel like a super fan. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Speaking of Iron Manning, I want to hear the story of you had an experience in Baja that's pretty interesting. I mean, look, a lot of people have raced Baja. It's like, I give everybody credit for whatever they drove 100 miles. Cool, you get credit for that, right? Yeah. But when you Iron Man something, right, that's next level. But then when you do it on a bike, like, honestly, I look at that and I go, okay, you're a little bit crazy.
Those guys are insane.
Yeah.
I didn't do it on a bike.
Oh, okay. I thought you did it on a bike.
No, I did it in a single seat Polaris RS1.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, like a shorter wheelbase than a VW Bug.
Right.
Like, if you ever have a chance, I made some videos. Go to YouTube and type in David Clay Baja 1000. I made like 4 videos. They're like 13 minutes each. It just kind of documented the whole thing. But no, like, so here's the thing. Like, I've been a navigator since I was 17, and I've been on a lot of different teams. I've navigated in spec trucks, Class 8s, Class 10s. I've never been in a trophy truck, so we need to make that happen. Anyway, been a navigator. Sometimes, because I'm really good at driving at night, and I'd go on these pre-runs, I'd have my own car, so people knew I could drive. I'd keep up with everybody. I'd do fine. I wouldn't break my stuff. Sometimes I'd get to drive a small section, which was really cool. Point A to point B, I'd get it there. I didn't break anything. I didn't lose any positions. Maybe I gained 1. Right. I'm not some phenomenal driver, but like, I'm consistent and I'm good. And that comes from 10 years of racing in a stock vehicle, knowing how not to like destroy a vehicle. Right. So I just like, man, I loved it. Anytime I got a chance to drive, I loved it. And I'm like, man, who can I want to be a driver. I want to, like everybody
Sure.
wants to be a driver. So I'm like, okay, who in Utah can I just like drive for? Well, there's the Wells, Caden Wells. He's very, very successful.
Very good.
And he's just like too good for me. Like he goes too fast, right? Like they need a real driver. So like that wasn't really going to work. I just couldn't figure it out. And I was like, what is the just cheapest, best way to get out there? An idea that I always had in my mind, one of these guys that I raced with, his name was Mark Landersman, and he used to own a Class 10, and he told me one time, we were chasing a race together, so we were in the chase truck for a long time. He says, one of the greatest experiences of my entire life was racing the Baja 1000 in a single seat class, the Baja 500 in a single seat Class 10. He's like, after the race was over, they had to pull me out of the car. I was so exhausted. It was crazy, and like all these, he just told story after story after story. And this is when I was 19 years old, something, that we were, doing this race. And so I had that idea in my mind. Well, here I become an adult and I'm like, I don't have money for a Class 10. I've got kids. I've got, all this other stuff. So I'm not doing it in a Class 10. I'm not doing it in a Class 1. I want to do it in a single seat car. Look at this. RS1s. They're like 12 grand.
Right.
Okay. Well, how are we going to do this? Because like, I don't have all the support to go down and run one of these. Cause you're right. Having a race car is part of it.
Right. Having
all the chase vehicles and all the support and everything else is another part. So in 2021-ish, I come up with a thing called the RS1 Iron Man challenge. And I put it out there to the world saying, I want to take an RS1. I want to go an Iron Man, the Baja 1000. And I want to get a group of people that have always wanted to race the Baja 1000 also, and have never been able to actually like figure out how to, put it together. Everybody, let's all go get RS1s. We'll all pool our resources. So if everybody has a chase truck, now we can like spread out our chase vehicles. We can all like pitch in on a big old mansion in Ensenada. We'll all stay there together and we all have the same parts.
Right.
So everyone accumulate parts. We'll all help each other. We'll just do this thing, So we did that. I got 6 racers. I mean, Dave Cole was one of them. Travis Zollinger, JD Daniels. There's a kid up in Seattle that was watching it on YouTube because I got on George Hamill's podcast. We were talking about it.
Right.
He was up in the Seattle airport watching, like scrolling through YouTube, came across it. He goes, oh, that sounds really cool. His name's Jared Kazacria. He's like, I'm going to go buy an RS1. He calls me up. Hey, how do I join this thing? I'm like, just join the thing. So we do like calls and all this stuff. Some old dude from Montana had always wanted to do it. Kurt Freed. He like went and bought an RS1. So there were 6 of us.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah. And then, we go and do the Iron Man challenge. I made it 650 miles. I was running second place in my class, which is pretty cool. And then the car just stopped working. Just an electrical something somewhere along the line in the wiring harness. I spent hours and hours and hours replacing every electrical, anything that I possibly could. Had to put it on a trailer. I was just like, oh, this sucks. Like, it's a giant paperweight. And, later on just replacing the entire harness. And I still don't know what broke. But I was like, oh man, like it's not going to be another 4 years until they do a peninsula run. And I don't want to do a normal Baja 1000. I want to like start a race, do every single mile and finish a race, but like a peninsula run, once I accomplish this, I never want to do it again. So let's just go big, So in 2023, they announced that they were doing it backwards. I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. Let's do it again. So I was the only one to do it that time. Actually, no, JD Daniels did it too. He came back because he didn't finish the first time either. And yeah, Iron Man the thing.
What was that? What was that experience like? Because it's really interesting because there is this history of single seat cars, Iron Manning, and like Doug Fortin comes to mind because he was always racing single seat cars.
Yeah, Sam Berry, Chuck Hovey, all of those dudes.
But it's wild because when you're and there's the debate of like, is it Iron Manning if you have a co-driver, right?
Or are you soloing it?
Or what is soloing it? Which way is it, right? And to me, both of them are completely just badass, right? But I will say that being alone in the car, the psychological challenge that has, the physical challenge, right? Of like, hey, now you've got to fix whatever's wrong. You got to get it unstuck. You might have tire changes, etc. That just adds another layer of, challenge, really anxiety of like, nobody's going to come help me, right? So it's weird. Like the part of the process of off-roading is pulling the umbilical cord, right?
Yeah.
It's like you start very small where you're like, hey, here's all the pavement in the world that I know, and I'm going to go down this dirt road, and my cell phone probably won't work, right? So I'm on my own, but I'm really only 10 miles from a road.
Yeah.
Right. And then what you learn is you start learning very valuable things like how far can I walk in a day? How much water do I need in a day? Right. Because after you've had to walk out, you realize like, wow, 15 miles, that's a good walk. Right.
Yeah, right.
So once you go beyond that, you're like, okay, we're spending the night and it's going to be 2 days of walking or whatever it is. Depending on how fit you are and also same thing, logistics, water, all that type of stuff. But the deeper and deeper you go, the more you move away from that kind of umbilical cord of being attached to the world of like, hey, I'm safe. I just, call a tow truck. There's a police officer. There's food, water, all the stuff within walking distance. And then you go into some place like Baja and you're on your own. That's a whole nother level of psychology, you know what I mean? Like of overcoming. Right. So what was, for you, soloing and what was that like? What was that experience like?
So it's really nice when you have in the back of your mind, like the RacingTrax guy needs to get a little street cred. So just shut up and keep driving. Like, don't stop, like it doesn't matter how bad your body hurts. Just keep going. It was a rough starting. I put the thing on its side 30 miles in. Just with the, cars are, coming up and, and again, it's the RS1. It's pretty slow, right? I had Ken Block's daughter in my class chasing me down in a brand new Can-Am, which is like the fastest of the fast, but it's stock, So, I'm all nervous, whatever, like put the thing on its side, finally get it back over, get to pit 1. My guys are fueling it. Car catches on fire because they pull out and it drips or whatever. So like they get burned. By pit 1, I'm all, do we just call this thing? This is like not turning out to be very good. Nate Hale and Brian Jackson, they were the ones that got burned, but they're like, no, just go. We'll figure it out. We're like, if you're good to go, we're good to go. Let's just go. And right off the bat, my comm stopped working because electronics, right? So I was just quiet, just driving and just driving, like a whole bunch of driving. It was incredible though. Like that's the one thing people need to see that country. Holy cow. It was like driving through a postcard the entire time, everywhere. And I don't like loop races. I know there's people that like loop races. I love a good point to point and I love just seeing new stuff. And it's like, what's around the next corner? What's around the next corner? It's ignorance and optimism. That's all it was on my part. Like I didn't know that I couldn't do it. And I was just like, yeah, let's go. And then we'd pull in and like my guys would shake the tires like, oh, your wheel bearings are jacked. And then like Nate Hale would jump in there and like do stuff. And I would just like kind of take a breather. But I ended up sleeping 3 minutes in that time. So I raced, I went through a whole night, 18 hours into it. I took a 1 minute power nap and Adderall. It was beautiful. And then 18 hours later, I take another 1 minute power nap and Adderall, and then a slow release and a fast release. And then like 18 hours later, I took like another 1 minute power nap, just kind of like reset physically, and then just took her home.
Nice.
So I technically didn't finish.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, yeah.
You timed out?
Yeah. So this is what's really frustrating. This is why I'm like, do I need to do this again? Because race mile 900, coming out of the Catavenia loop, really gnarly section, pouring rain, freezing cold. There's a guy in the middle of the road and he's like, stop. Like he's standing in the middle of the road. I have to stop or I'm going to run this guy over. So I stop. He has a speed UTV on the side of the road, and is out of gas. And he's a chase support guy. He'd gone in to help somebody and then, they did their thing and they're on their way out. They're out of gas and it was pouring rain. And he's like, dude, my navigator's like freezing. He's not doing good. Like we need gas. Like, do you have any gas at all, please? And so, my RS1, I rigged it up to where I had a fuel cell in the back and then I had my stock fuel cell. Okay. And I had a jacuzzi timer. So anytime that my stock gauge said I was like down to a quarter thing of gas, I just like cranked the timer. Right. And it would just like do a slow pump.
Oh,
put
nice.
it in there. Right. So he's like, please, I got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. It's freezing cold, blah, blah, blah. Right. So I was like, oh man, okay, fine. So I go and I like snip all like the lines and stuff. And I basically route it to his car and give him, 3 or 4 gallons of gas. And I put it all back together and I go stop for 32 minutes. It's on my tracker. It's on the Sella tracker. I timed out by 25.
Oh, they didn't give it back to
I
you.
went to OZG and I told him the situation. He goes, they could have built a fire. They would have been fine. You shouldn't have helped.
Oh, wow.
F you.
Yeah. That's harsh.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like in the driver's meeting, they're like, stop and help people. We'll credit you back. But he's like, he wasn't a competitor.
Yeah.
And men, he literally said men cannot get hypothermia.
Oh, they definitely can.
Yeah, they definitely can. So it's hard because I kind of want to do it again, but I kind of don't. Want to hear something weird? This is weird to me. Okay. So I'm at your Parker race.
Right.
Max Gordon comes up and he's like, oh, what's going on, David? We're talking whatever. And he kind of like brings up the whole RS1 thing a little bit. And I'm like, it'd be really cool. It'd be really cool to Iron Man it in a speed UTV, I don't even know, has a speed UTV finished 1,000 yet?
I don't think so.
I know they go real fast until they don't.
Yeah. I think it would. I'm not sure if one has. I think it would.
This is that 300 horsepower speed key that people just can't keep from twisting. They just want to get there.
I mean, it's very interesting because we're like, I was just actually at Kawasaki and, they have a new car coming and I'm really excited for that. And one of the reasons I'm really excited for it is how well it's built. Right.
Yeah.
So, we've gone through this evolution with UTVs where all of them have gotten really good. Right. Mm-hmm. But there's also this weird kind of truth to them that they're also cheaply built, right? Because they're built for mass sales, right? So there's always going to be things that we look at as off-road racers and we're like, we're going to replace the cage, we're going to replace this arm, whatever it is, right? Just so it lives. Well, when Robbie built his car, he knew, he had all that knowledge. I mean, he's a phenomenal car builder.
Yeah.
So he built that car ready to race, right?
Yeah.
So, and then it becomes like a little bit of a math game of like, how many times can you have your car try a race before it has success and then a lot of success, right? And when you look at the numbers of Can-Ams and Polarises that have raced every race, ultimately they're going to win. It's funny because we've been looking at data quite a bit because we're tracking, all the different manufacturers, their finish rates, their failure rates and all that kind of stuff. And we're giving that information back to our sponsors. So an example is BF Goodrich. Like we give BF Goodrich a report and the report isn't just on their tire and what success they had in one particular class. It's everybody. It's
like the other manufacturers, you're like, hey, their Maxxis has held up really good, guys.
And like, oh, look, Yokohama's catching up with you because now they're involved with the Brenthals. They immediately got numbers and basically hypercharged their R&D process because now they've got 15, 20 trucks going to a race, whereas other brands are like, we've got one truck, Yeah. So it's really interesting, but yeah, I think when I look at the UTV classes and I go, okay, obviously the Pro R and the Maverick are faster. They're 100-mile-an-hour cars now, so they're faster than speed cars top end. Mm-hmm. But the speed car I think would be a really good car to run along racing.
Yeah. So that's what I was telling that to Max. And, Max isn't a big decision maker. Like, oh, let me get you a car, right? So it's funny, though.
That'd be dangerous if he was, though. He'd probably give away a lot of cars.
Yeah, probably. He's got a lot of friends. So anyway, we're just having this casual conversation. And then this guy over that is getting his tracker, he goes, hey, David, I got an El Jefe. It's going to be brand new and it's race ready. They come off the showroom floor like that. Window nets, race seats, the whole nine yards. You can take that and go. I'm looking at this guy, I'm all, Scott Baker just offered me a Speed Energy UTV car to go race the Baja 1000. Like,
you got to do it.
Do you though? Because what do you do with that? What a generous offer. Holy cow.
I will say though, like now I look at things in a different lens, right? I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, a little bit more out of shape, but also I've done the nights in the desert and I've done things the wrong way. Now when I get offers to drive or whatever, I look at it and no offense, but like if you don't have your shit together, I'm not doing it, right? Because I don't need I don't need to experience the failure or the wrong way to do it. And there is a right way to do this, right? And it's preparation, right?
Right.
That's where your race is going to be won, is in the preparation, right? Everybody thinks about the race and like, hey man, I'm this and that and all this stuff happened. But like, if you don't go to the race prepared, like absolutely prepared for every situation, you're not gonna have a good time.
That's why it's not such an easy, like, sure, I'll do it. Let's take your car and go, because that is such a small piece. Having just a race car is such a small piece. And I know I could take that car and get it across the finish line and go have a great time and everything would be fine and it'd be great. But like, better start prepping now.
Yeah.
Better start putting that program together now.
And I think the other thing is, like, I know too much, right? Like, I'll give you the perfect example is there was a UTV team and they had all the right things, but they weren't having any success. And it was because, you know, even though they had good guys on their team, they had no knowledge of really long distance off-road racing, especially in Baja. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, they had hired us to do some content work. Right. And the guy's name was Paul Krause. He still races now.
I know Paul.
Super nice guy. But I go, Paul, hey, dude, like, let us help you do your logistics. And up until that point,
that's dynamics, right?
Yeah, it was dynamic.
Right, okay.
And up until that point, it really wasn't something that we did as a business or anything. It was like I've been involved in various teams and helping various teams. But what I didn't like is again, being the control freak, I didn't like being over in the corner and watching all these things go down, bad decisions, poor planning, lack of discipline, you know, whatever. And a lot of it, to be honest, a lot of it comes back to finances, is because they go, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to spend $5,000. And you're like, you're not going to do well. Spend 10 grand and have a good time.
Yeah.
You know, you've already spent 100 grand on the vehicle and all this money. Don't short yourself here. Go in prepared, you know, not trying to shortchange the experience, and ultimately not just have success with the race, but have a good experience. Right. Yeah. And, you know, and then there's lack of knowledge. Right. And so when I identified that with dynamic, I was like, you know, let us help you. And I convinced Paul to help us. And we brought in, you know, some of our friends who were very experienced in chase and mechanical, you know, a couple guys who have been with the old school wide open crew. Right. And we're from Ensenada. So they speak Spanish. They know the areas. They were just badasses. Don Legs, one of them, and then a couple other guys too. You know, we did a pre-run, and the pre-run went shockingly well. It was actually kind of crazy because we did the pre-run, and I was so excited about how well the pre-run went. I called the president of Polaris, and I was like, dude, the whole world has changed. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, what we just did in 3 Polarises, like, I've done that with the Macmillans, the Herps, like all these different.
Is this like when Polaris just barely came? I mean, not came out, but they started to be capable enough, like 2016.
Yeah, it was the Pro Turbo.
Oh yeah,
they're the Turbo S. But it was funny was that's what we pre-ran in, but they were racing in a Can-Am, and but anyways, we did the pre-run. We ran them and their team through logistics. We did a bunch of kind of driving training, but like in the sense of, like, you know, you're in a section, you're like, listen, this, you cannot brake here. If you brake here, nobody's going to get to you. You know, here's where you push, here's where you know, relax, you know, talking about all this different logistics with their teams and just having that experience. And so we came back from the pre-run and we're like, you know, I think it was a few days and, you know, the race was going to happen. And, you know, the goal was to get a finish. Like, let's just get these guys to the finish line. Let's just go. Right. We had this wonderful pre-run, so we were pretty high. So we start the race, and we didn't have problems right away, but we had problems throughout. But we kept them going and kept them going, kept them going. We ended up getting a third, right? Which was, I still to this day, I think one of their best finishes. And
is that when they had that girl driving for them from South America?
Yep.
I was racing in that race. I was in a Reese Millen car. The guy that owned it, his name was Tony Riggs, and I was actually driving that.
Oh
section.
yeah, I know Tony.
Yeah. And she would pass us like we were standing still, and we were clipping along pretty good.
Yeah.
And then they pulled off to the side, and we'd pass them. And then she would pass us like we were standing still, and then
she was still at that point. She was still a rally driver. Right?
Okay.
And so it's like we're like that was the one thing, and we're like, slow down, right? You've got to get through 6 hours of driving, 8 hours of driving, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then hand the car over. So Christine GZ, and it took a while, but she got better and better. You know, I mean, she did really good. At that race, but yeah, we had lots of like little problems with that car, and learned a lot. You know, again, got him to the finish line, got a third place, and but what it showed me is I had applied my racecraft that I'd learned from all these people that I'd worked with in the past, and I was going as the media guy on a lot of those trips, right? I wasn't like, hey, this guy's gonna, help us with logistics, right? I was just absorbing what was going on, and so it was just applying that. So the point I guess I was trying to make is like, if you don't know that going into it, you're going in and you're like, this will be fun. And you're like,
it's so easy to be naive in this sport.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that all have to just go so perfectly correct to make it happen. I think that's what the appeal is. I mean, again, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And because it's so stinking hard, like climbing Mount Everest is hard and a lot of people aren't going to make it.
Right.
Doing this sport that we do is so ridiculously hard. And it's just every little nut and bolt needs to be correct.
Well, and again, like, that's one of the things I love about your technology, because I was around as it developed, and being able to, be a tech savvy person and go like, oh, it should work like this. We just have to figure it out. Right.
Yeah.
It's been really cool. Right. And us too, like I can tell you as a promoter, it's a huge weight off our shoulder to be able to look at all the puzzle pieces on the course and know where everybody's at, right? For lots of different reasons, for tracking, for timing, for safety, for entertainment, all these different things. So it's been a huge game changer and an evolution. The other thing that it's done is it's made it more comfortable for people to approach, because growing up, I was fortunate that I grew up in this. So I became very comfortable with like being in the middle of nowhere in the desert and going like, I know where I'm at. Right. Like, people go, oh, you're in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, no, this highway is 15 miles that way or 30 miles that way or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And even the Baja Peninsula, when you realize how, at any given point, there's two coastlines on each side of you. And yes, you can still be screwed in the middle of nowhere there, but it's not Africa. You know what I mean?
I spent nights in the Baja desert where like the driver gets a ride out. Yeah. And you're just sitting there with the truck.
Oh yeah.
And there's like no supplies. And you're like cutting wires out from underneath the dash and hot wiring the battery to get spark on a rag that you soaked with fuel. Oh yeah. And you just kind of deal with it.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing is I learned very early on, like you start to understand like where you're at and what's going on. And you're like, man, this actually, you may be uncomfortable. You might be starving. You might be, cold or whatever, but it's really not that bad. It's like, would you rather be here or stuck in an office in front of a computer, right?
The desert all day long. What do you think? Like, so there was a huge rise in UTVs, tons of UTV teams. Polaris was really big in supporting the little guys and everything. And then they've kind of just changed their focus onto these top drivers, and they're like 6 cars that they just, focus on. Do you think any of that's going to come back? Like in your mind, like do you have a plan or a kind of an idea? Like, how do we get all these like just regular dudes with regular UTVs coming back and racing?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think it's very interesting, like what in particular Polaris has done by having their factory team, and I like that. I will say though that like when you look at the biggest time periods of growth of off-road racing, everybody's like, oh, the factories. It's not been the factories. It's been, they Polaris is supporting, the sport. They were supporting us. Those were the biggest times of growth. I don't see it, do we have a plan? Yeah, absolutely. We have a plan. And that's why we make changes. People look at it and they're like, well, that's dumb. Like, I'll give you the first one that now I love. People now come up to me and go, that was a good idea, was to separate 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive trophy truck.
Yeah.
Because we started looking at that, and like my experience in off-road racing culture, I was there for the rise of the Pro 4, which nobody but the racers wanted, right? So the racers wanted that. Don't get me wrong, it's a badass vehicle.
Yeah.
But the spectators weren't like, oh, Pro 2s are boring. We need something cooler.
Right.
They didn't care. The Pro 2s were plenty. Sponsors, they didn't care. Right.
Yeah. That's sponsorship on the side of a truck is a sponsorship on the side of the truck.
So all of a sudden, you just doubled the cost of racing without doubling the cost of the value of racing.
Right.
And we're doing the same with trophy trucks, right? We're taking an incredibly difficult, expensive sport from a sponsorship perspective and from a spectating perspective, and we just doubled the cost, right? And now, like you were talking, as an engineer, as a a fan of engineering, I love it because I love the tech and I love the story of, in particular, the Mason brothers. Like, not college educated engineers, it's not Ford or Chevy or somebody backing them going, hey, we've got, $10 million to develop this. They did get some help, from investment from racers, but that's roulette.
Yeah.
And they developed the next evolution, right, from Lake Elsinore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that story.
Those guys had the magic formula. They ruined the 7200 class.
Yeah.
They ruined it because they built trucks so good that if you weren't in a Mason truck, then, all these cool different 7200 trucks with beam front ends or rear engines, all these things, like it didn't matter. They had the magic formula. Yep. Their truck was going to win.
And that's credit to them. So now
it is pretty cool.
Now you fast forward and you go, one of the reasons why we chose to break the classes up is the racers were coming to me and they're like, Matt, look, like, we love doing this. We're going to keep doing it. We want to continue to race, but I can't take 2 weeks off to pre-run, spend this much on a truck, a pre-runner, all these kinds of things. So it becomes cost prohibitive even at the top. Similar thing was happening with UTVs where, we very quickly went from, hey, it's a $40,000 car with some modifications. Okay. So you're still like well under $100,000, you're, with a very competitive vehicle, to like, oh no, we're 150, 200 grand. We're like, whoa. Yeah. Right. And truthfully, when I look at the platform, and what I know is coming from the manufacturers, they will be more expensive and faster, right? Yeah. So we've broken the 100-mile-an-hour threshold. When you look at the speeds that Brock Hager was doing at the Mint, like, there's no way. Like, we looked at all of his data, all of his performances, and we're like, that's cool, but you're coming to the Mint. The Mint is way rougher than any other race. You're not going to be able to keep that pace. The car's going to come apart. I think you're going to have failures, right? Mm-hmm. Totally wrong. Brock drove his ass off, drove the piss out of that car and just basically stomped everybody, and the car lived. Yeah. Now you can buy that car as is from Polaris, right? Which is incredible. So does that even the playing field? Truthfully, not necessarily, because you're not Brock Hager. You don't have the factory support.
Yeah, having every single part completely redone, every single race, whatever it is.
But that's also why we have the different classes, right?
Yeah.
And so, our plan for the future is, and that's why we started separating the classes. We started going, okay, we have an open class. That's where the Polaris team's racing, because there are modifications beyond the basic stocks, the traditional stock vehicle. That's their race stock vehicle, we'll call it, that you can buy, which I highly recommend because it's a lot of bang for the buck. Like any, aftermarket builder, that same car is going to cost you 50 to 100 grand more. Right. Yeah. And it's just because Polaris has a facility, you know, they've got everything dialed. And they're making those cars. I mean, that's the other thing is like, we went and looked at their whole facility. I took Savage up there and, you know, was waiting for him to be like, nope. Right. And we walked through the whole process, the safety, what they were doing. And, you know, we left going, okay, they have the knowledge. They have all the mechanical, toys, you know, that you could ever wish for. If you just went, hey, money is no object, this is everything I need, they've got it. Right. And testing and so on and so forth. So it's really what Polaris has done from a support side is really incredible. The fact that they're allowing people to buy those cars to me is very exciting. Like I want to see what happens with that. Right.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to beat that team. The other thing that we changed to even the playing field, which was a very calculated thing that some people noticed. I'm kind of surprised more Can-Am racers didn't notice it, but we created qualifying for the UTVs. So rather than like in Baja, they're two different classes, right? The Can-Am and the Polaris, that's all, hey, whoever qualifies first, whatever vehicle you have, that's where you start by class, right?
Did you do that across the board?
No, we did that. We did do qualifying for the different classes in UTV so that the faster guys could start up front.
Okay. But if a UTV was faster than like a class 1, he wouldn't have started ahead.
No, because first off, they race on different days, but there becomes a vehicle size disparity for safety, right? And that's one thing that we learned with the Mint when we were putting 400 cars on a track at the same time. It was a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
When you have, you know, a trophy truck with that closing speed coming down on a vehicle like a UTV, it's not good.
Yeah, especially a lap race where you know it's going to happen. Like,
yeah, and same thing with bikes is like, you know, I'm of the mindset of like, hey, if you sign the waiver and that's what you want to do, you're taking that risk. That's great. But also, we live in a world where, you know, I've got to have insurance and I've got to keep people safe and I can't have continuous injuries or deaths, right? That's not good for anybody's business. So we've developed the system of separating them that we have. So yeah, for the future of UTVs, I'm actually really excited, and I'm excited about the entry of the new Kawasaki vehicle. I think, you know, I think that's going to give some people some options. I'm also excited about, you know, the other classes, right? Because to your point, like, I don't care what class you're racing, you can come and have an incredible experience. And yeah, maybe you're not the overall winner, but per what you're spending, I mean, like if I were racing full time right now, I'd be racing the stock pro class, right? Or even just the stock UTV class.
Yeah.
Right? Like the vehicle that you have to race that could potentially be the majority of those other vehicles out there, because you're dancing with this relationship between the weight and the durability. Like I'll point to an example, like Phil Blurton. Like Phil Blurton's car isn't this crazy overbuilt mini class 1 car. It's pretty stock. And granted, he has a budget from Can-Am, so he's able to replace parts after every race, but he's kept his vehicle purposely, you know, light, because at the end of the day, it's still on a rubber band, right?
Right.
So you don't get more horsepower to compensate for the more weight that you put on the vehicle. So, yeah, I'm excited for the future of UTV racing.
Do you think this has never happened in desert racing? And it's kind of a county fair type thing, but a claimer class. Have you ever thought about doing any type of a claimer class where it's like a $50,000? Anybody that's racing in this class, if at the finish line somebody wants to buy your car for $50,000, they can. Go ahead and put $100,000 into it. You're going to lose your shirt, but you know, if you can keep it around the $35,000 range, if somebody does buy it, you're happy, you're making money.
Sure.
So it's kind of that balancing act, and it's ultimately the dollar, because too many teams are just getting priced out. They're just like, man, I'm just getting priced out. I can't afford to race against these guys that have an unlimited budget and 2 Starlinks on their roof, because, you know, it's just all the things. And nobody's ever done that before. And I don't know if that would work. It's kind of a neat idea to think of the strategy behind that.
I would put it out there for people to decide, but
comment on this video, $50,000 claimer class.
There you go.
Here we go.
But I don't think, I know from racing, like I would set up my car specifically for me and my style and my needs. And I wouldn't want to ever be like, oh, here, take the Magic, right? Because even within UTVs, there's racecraft and there's tricks, right?
Yeah, but guys are always like, okay, we had this car for a year, time to build a new one, time to build a new one, and you learn things. And that's kind of the fun of it also is, can I build a $30,000 car that might win and somebody might snatch it from me for 50? Yeah. So that, but I get what you're saying.
It could be interesting. I mean, I'm open to it.
Like, you could almost be like bring anything. You want to bring a Ford Ranger and race it in this class? Right. Do it.
Right.
No,
it's interesting. I mean, I'd be for something like that if people want to do it. I mean, that's one thing was we take a lot of feedback and we listen, and we generally will take that information back to our team and go, let's discuss this. The good, the bad, the ugly. And, fortunately for me, I have, Bill Savage for technical direction along with Tommy Morris. So like, there's nothing that those guys haven't already seen. I mean, they literally call me and they're like, we were talking about this. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. Wait. All right. I got you. Right. Like I have to catch up to them with all the variables that they've already seen, come to fruition through off-road racing and seen through. Yeah. So it's pretty wild. But no, I think that I'm excited about UTV class. I'm excited about some of the manufacturers getting involved with stock vehicle racing. We're talking about developing a new class below 6100 in between UTVs that we've been working on for a while.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that same thing, because we have this challenge where the spec class started out as a great idea, but my predecessors didn't keep it locked to 37s to 37-inch tires. They didn't keep it locked to a 425 engine and no underdrive. So very quickly, that $300,000, $350,000 truck now is $657,000.
Yeah, you're doubling it. If you can bring that back to just like, hey, here's a new barrier, or not a barrier of entry. Like, let's take down that barrier. Yeah, here's a new potential of getting in.
Yeah, so we're actively working on developing that class and locking it. So it's like, this is it. If you want to go faster and go bigger, those classes already exist. And, it's again, same thing with the evolution of trophy truck is like the true unlimited fashion trophy truck is four-wheel drives, right? Yeah. But why would we ever, there's 100 and something, two-wheel drives out there. Why would we just time those out and be like, sorry guys? You know what I mean?
Give them a place where their vehicle is relevant.
Yeah, and not to mention that, like, there's still races those guys haven't won. They've never won the Mint. Yeah. They've never won California 300. I think that there's an evolution to it now with technology and the numbers that it's possible. But it hasn't happened yet. Yeah. So it's interesting. That's the fun thing about this is like, the technology story, whether it's tracking or whether it's the vehicle technology.
Yeah. Have you seen basically what Dave Cole's trying to do? Do you know about that?
Which thing?
So it's funny because at King of the Hammers, he told everyone, buy this special puck and do this special thing. We're digitally printing all these boxes because we're trying to accomplish this thing, and nobody really understood what it was. Everybody did it, then nothing happened. And we were going to track King of the Hammers. This is the second year in a row. They're like, how many wristbands do you need? How many this? Like, how many camp spots? Oh, never mind. There's this company over in Europe. We're going to give them a shot. Okay, that's annoying. And then this time, same thing. How many wristbands? We want to use you guys, all of that. And then, Yellow Brick's going to track the motorcycles. We're just going to have them track the regular race too. Okay, So it was after that race, Dave Cole's at a snore race. And I go up to him like, Dave, what the heck's going on? What are you trying to do? Because you had everybody buy this special puck. You talked about this little thing that plugs into your canvas system. but nothing happened. I watched the whole live stream. You didn't talk about anything new. Nothing. I mean, you were not promising, but like you were kind of talking about like live tracking, all these other cool things too, right? So I'm obviously interested in like, what are you doing?
Sure.
He's like, well, yeah, I didn't quite work out, and we're just trying to get, you know, telemetries and things like that. I said, telemetry? Oh, like this? Turn on my unit, connect my phone to it, and I go, is this what you're looking for?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, that's it. That's what we're looking for. I'm like, dude, why don't you just talk to me? Tell me what you're doing. So ultimately what he's doing is, if you have your race car, and I think this is going to be good for everyone, whether you do this or not, I think that like this is really smart as far as bringing off-road racing to the masses. Because right now, how are people being introduced to off-road racing? They're buying their own personal UTV, usually, right? Nobody's going down and starting with a spec truck off the showroom floor. They're buying a UTV and they're saying this is a lot of fun. They kind of find themselves into the culture. They're introduced to it and they learn about off-road racing, and it kind of progresses from there, right? So he's making it into a video game where you scan your vehicle, any vehicle. So my RS1, which anytime that, you know, there was a clip of my RS1 on any type of a show, I'd like, get really excited, right?
Sure.
Scans it all. And then my XYZ access that I'm recording on this now turns this digital image of your vehicle up, down, left, right, everything that this is doing. So in real time, because this is going to be sending every 1 second with all that data included, not just an update, it's going to be actually showing this vehicle doing everything that it's doing in real time. And then as a gamer, you can then log on, pay your fee or whatever you're doing. You can say, I want to go ahead and be Harley Lettner in his truck, and I want to race against him in his own vehicle, because now they can duplicate this as many times as you want to. So now we're going to have people in China playing American off-road video game in real time or after the fact. You can do it after. They can go and run a Mint 400 after the fact. And I was like, that's really cool.
Sure.
That's actually really cool. I mean, because that's one thing that 90% of young men have in common. They all have a stupid console in their bedroom.
Yeah.
I call it stupid because I don't have one. Nor do I want one.
Usually it's stupid because you have one and you're killing a ton of time.
No, I'm just looking at kids these days and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're killing so much time. But
I think that there's something very important about the convergence between gaming and motorsports, right? F1's already proved it. A little bit NASCAR, right? Like we've had, you know, we have long conversations with iRacing. You know, I think that the platform needs to be fleshed out more.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, when I look at, you know, something like BeamNG, and I'm like, well, I think it's cool, right? I also look at it from like a control standpoint, right? And as a promoter, I'm responsible for the control of the IP of the intellectual property and how that gets disseminated, right?
Right.
So what I don't want somebody, whether it's online or whether it's at the event, to come have a bad experience, you know?
Right.
Because that's really what's held back the evolution of off-road for a long time, is that from a spectator standpoint, it's hard to consume, right? Mm-hmm. People have to get off their ass. They got to drive. They got to figure stuff out, et cetera.
Even if you do find the perfect place, it's all
right.
And then that experience is over.
Same thing. Hey, I want to race. Where do I start? Right.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Right. And we need to work on bringing those in. So when you talk about a gaming platform, there's so many things that need to come together to make that a positive thing and a controlled thing. And I'll just be honest too. Like, I have a problem with, you know, somebody taking the intellectual property that I've spent blood, sweat, and tears building and being like, oh, we're just going to give it away, and hopefully somebody plays it in China, and hopefully that has some sort of value to you. That doesn't sound like
he's got a whole nother side of the picture that he's got to figure out. I'm just working on, here's this data for your races that you're having me do Ultra for, and if you have me do King of the Hammers in the future and all that, I will give you the data.
Totally. Yeah. But I think it's let me be very clear, because I think it's very important, right? And, you know, when there's a video game on PlayStation called Dirt that was Rally.
Oh, sure. We got a little sticker in there.
Yeah, no. And we got cars in there, and it was really exciting initially, because I was like, Victory, we got a trophy truck in there. Victory, we got a Class 1 car in there. Had nothing to do with the Mint. I was just, hey, kids in Europe will be able to play on this platform and see our vehicles, and that'll turn them on to it, right? Same idea.
Yeah.
I don't think it had any impact. In fact, I think that what it did is it gave them a way to
not do it in real life.
Well, spin the narrative to say rally is the coolest, most important thing. And then there's these other funny little things, and we're going to control it and put it in this place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was interesting in talking to the people who make that game, who are a company based in England. I'm like, look, I get it. Your goal is to make a video game and sell it to everybody, right? But hey, the number one market in the world, right, especially for vehicles, is America, and we drive trucks. So maybe you ought to consider what we're doing, and they didn't, So, but again, now with iRacing simulators, like all these things, like everything is starting to like come together, and I see a lot of opportunity for that in the future. And the data part of it is very important because we want it to be an accurate representation, right? There's kind of two directions with it. There's, the gaming platform of like, hey, make it easy and fun, right? And then there's the simulator platform, which it's like really driving the car, right? So you have a simulator that moves, and it's not super easy to drive. It feels like a real car, right? The gaming aspect actually has a wider appeal, but both are equally as important, or I wouldn't say equally, they both are as important.
That is one thing that I was wondering with this whole thing is like, is somebody going to sit in their simulator for 4.5 hours?
You'd be surprised.
Like, it took me 50 hours to Iron Man the Baja 1000.
Yeah.
Like, somebody gonna like,
hey, they could pause
I would love to scan that little RS. Yeah, pause it, take a break.
They can pause it, go take a break.
No, you got to do it the whole way through.
Well, it'd be funny. It'd be funny to have that thing be like, it records everything. So it'd be funny to say like, oh, you took this many breaks, compare it to reality. But I think that it can be used in the future. It can be used as a tool for exposure. It can be used as a tool to bring fans. It can be used as a tool to bring racers, right? Like, I think it's valuable. I just know that, like, in order for it to be done correctly, there's a lot of resources that have to be allocated towards it. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And then, Dave's a funny dude. I really appreciate a lot his mind in the sense that he thinks, it's not even so much out of the box, but I guess it is. It's more of like a continuum of like, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? Right. And while I think that's a good thing, I also know from a business aspect that like, man, you got to focus on the basics and make those great. Right. And then once you have those basics built, then you can go, oh, okay, cool. We can add this. Right.
Right.
So what I've seen Dave tend to do is like, go pretty crazy with ideas and, not have the perfect execution of them, which look, truthfully, nobody does. We do the same thing. We try things and sometimes we're like, yeah, it didn't work, and I think it's important to continue to push and evolve things, but it's got to be tactical.
So the mountain ranges that are out there, the Min 400 course, that you go through the canyons and things like that. Are there any 4-wheel drive trails that, well, my point being is, could you adapt and say, hey, 4400s, come race the Min 400. Yeah. And at this point, we're going to have you turn left and you're going to go do a rock crawling section.
We actually,
and up and over and down and around and through. And then you just have your own kind of Ultra 4 type King of the Hammer style.
100%.
Yeah, because there's some great terrain out there.
I mean, the land designation at Mint is a little bit more prohibitive, right? Mm-hmm. So there are some areas that we could do rock lines. The California 300, definitely, we already have them, right?
Okay.
So we intended on starting that last year. But there becomes this dance that we do prior to the race of like, hey, we have the intent to do all this stuff.
Will you come?
Yeah. Will you come? Yeah. And then we're looking at entry fees and then also support from sponsorship from the industry. And, we want to do everything, man. I want to live stream everything. I want to do everything. And when we get $1, we're like, cool, how do we spend this? Like, we're not pocketing it. We're not, if trust me, you would know when I'm making money, I'd be racing a trophy truck all the time. Simple indicator, right? So, and that's not the case right now. I haven't raced in a couple years. So, anything for that example. No, we have rock lines at the California 300. And what I like about them is they're not so gnarly that only 4400s can tackle them.
Okay.
Like, you could do them on a stock vehicle that has 37s, right? And so last year we got closer and closer to the race, and we had some lines picked out that would be basically, rock lines for all the rock crawlers to shine, right? And then we could build a story of like, all right, so and so's in third place, and he's going to go take the rock line, and that actually takes less time or more time, etc.
Oh, it's kind of like a Joker run. It's like if you think you can do that faster, then you can avoid this wrap around. But
it also gives those vehicles a place to shine, because I very clearly understand that when you're in a 4400 or any rock vehicle and you're toe to toe against a desert vehicle in a desert race, you're not going to look good. It's not fun for some of these guys, especially the straight axle guys, to be just going through stuff like this. Right.
Right.
So yeah, as we got closer to the race, we had to make the call of like, how many rock racers do we have? Because we had to dedicate staff and recovery staff and so on to those rock lines. So if we have enough, we're like, cool, we're doing it. If we don't, then it's like, okay, there's 6 people, we can't do those, right? We can't, put 20 people out there to babysit 6 people. The cost is too great. But no, I think, it's in the future, we look at that. And then again, Barstow definitely has rock lines. So it's something we look to do more there.
It'd be so hard to be a promoter. It'd be so hard. I'm sure that there's like a million ideas, and you're like, we got to just choose the right one and make sure that's successful. And that kind of goes back to the point that you were saying, like, do your thing, do it really, really, really well. And then you can kind of start playing with some of these different crazy ideas.
That's the interesting thing. Is like, I remember being the media guy and going to Casey and going to Sal and being like, you need a website. They're like, no, we don't need a website. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they told me. And I was going to do it for almost nothing. I'm like, I need a few grand, so I don't go broke doing it. And then it was like, hey, you need social media. Once, it was a really funny story with Casey. Once I explained to him what social media was, he had a Rolodex. It wasn't a Rolodex.
Yeah, Rolodex.
It was like, the book with everybody's name, and then it was all the business cards. And he goes, I have social media, right? And to him, social media was that, and him calling people and
being social.
And God bless him, like, he was very good at communicating. He was always on the phone talking to people. Yeah, always taking phone calls. And he taught me how important that is. But so I was the young, guy who was like throwing out, crazy ideas to these guys. And they were like, this is the way we've always done it. And I remember me getting really upset with both Sal and Casey one year, because we were working very closely with ESPN and X Games. And it was the first year we had helped Rally get into the X Games, right? And it's a big deal because they were going to, in LA, it's LA Coliseum. No, it wasn't Coliseum. Is that one of the stadiums in LA, and we were going to have rally racing in. And I wanted to show them that firsthand. I'm like, hey, will you come? Yeah, I'll come. And then, they didn't come. And I remember just being like, dude, like, had they come and seen that moment, that might have changed their mindset, right?
Right.
And all I was trying to do is say, hey, this is so cool. We need to expose it to other people. And there might be a conversation here with X Games. And even if there's not, look at how they're doing it. How do we do that? Now, being on the other side of it, I understand that we're just trying to pay for things. You know what I mean? There isn't like a separate pot of money of like, hey, this is the, $1 million we just try things with. we're literally like, cool, we spend money and we're making money and we're like, are we good? Right? Did we profit? Are we, you know what I mean?
That's scary.
It is scary. And a lot because we're dealing with variables that are changing up until the event, and even after the event, like I've gotten into full on wars with different vendors of like, hey, that's not what we agreed to, and they're suing me or they're pissed off at me or whatever it is, or lambasting me publicly. And like, I went through that during COVID where like, we probably lost like 30% of the money that was financially committed to us that disappeared, that people are like, yeah, we're not going to pay that because COVID, we're shut down, blah, blah. And I'm telling my vendors, hey, I'll pay you what I agreed to pay you, but that's it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going now because, people aren't paying us on time. It's going to take a minute. And most of the vendors were good with it. I had a few that were like, they weren't and just didn't care. And they're no longer vendors of ours. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that being on this side of it, I understand their point of view more than ever, but I don't want to ever be the guy who's like, no, this is the way it's always been. I always want to consider new ideas and evolutions. I think the minute that we stop considering new ideas, we should sell it. And I don't think we're anywhere close to that. I think that we have a long ways to go to grow this. I think I hate saying, oh, we're just getting started, because that's kind of a cliche.
It's more like you just have so many different ideas that you're just getting started.
But it's very simple. It's when we have 4 to 6 Mint 400s, that'll be a level, right? And even that, I don't think is close to where we can go with it.
Yeah.
I really believe in the product of off-road racing, and I'll debate anybody about it in any other motorsport. And it's exciting to be part of this now and here. And you see, I hope people see how much we do, right? Like I didn't wake up one day and go, I need to make a podcast. I'm like, man, we got to talk about this stuff, because we've got to talk about the people like you that are behind the scenes that don't get any credit, and why that's an important technology story, and that you've developed this, right, with a group for off-road racing. This isn't for a boat. You know what I mean? This isn't for tracking your shipment to China. This is specifically for off-road racing, because half this technology that's in this, especially the durability, you don't need this in anything else, right? It's overkill, right?
Yeah, it's kind of just for this sport.
So it's that storytelling. So we try and exhaust every resource that we have to help grow it and help create more knowledge about it and make it more accessible. And we'll continue to do that until we feel like either that's all we can do or we've reached what we think it can reach. And like I said, I think we're a long ways off of that.
Well, just keep driving parade vehicles down Las Vegas Boulevard.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. Yeah, the whole thing that you're doing with the Mint, you've had great success, and congratulations on that. And thank you. We love being a part of it. We love being able to be a part of Unlimited and working with you guys. It's been awesome, and it's something that we definitely look forward to. No,
and likewise. I mean, you guys have been a critical part on the growth of this sport. I mean, I hope you really understand that. Like, I appreciate it. That's why I wanted to do this, is like, one of the reasons we started this is like, I realized as I was getting older that there was decades of print articles that I had grown up reading and understood who people were that had contributed to the industry and the culture. And that went away. And so we have generations of kids now, or younger people, who they don't know who, people who started this culture are. They don't know who Mickey Thompson is.
Yeah.
They don't know who Nye Frank is. They don't know who, some of the founding racers are, or volunteers, or land use people, or, there's hundreds of them, probably thousands of them. And the other problem we run into is, as those guys age and pass away, we want to create a reference for them and what they've contributed in the digital realm and digital world, so that it goes on and lives forever.
Yeah, heck yeah.
So, a little bit of work to do ahead of us, but it's all good.
Dude, you're doing good things.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming and doing this.
Absolutely.
That was awesome.
Heck yeah. Thank you.